Well, Stone the Crows, our GoFundMe has been going gangbusters, and we have just purchased a nice, sexy microphone out of all the money that you have donated. So thank you so much, listeners. If you haven't donated yet or haven't shared it, please do get on it. Give us some cash to buy some better equipment so we can sound incredible. GoFundMe.com/whatthetrans.
Yes. And now, on with the thing that we do. Hello, and welcome to What the Trans.
What the Trans?
Yes, What the Trans, podcast by and for the trans, oddly enough. And if you want to know what the title means, we're just asking questions. How are you, Michelle?
I'm good. I put out a plea on Twitter asking for musicians to send us all of their lovely music, and they did.
Yes.
My God, the trans community is a very talented bunch of people. I listen to music from... Well, there's a lot of rock music out there in the trans community, a lot of punk, which is good for me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting onto that. And I actually have one of these incredibly talented, wonderful trans musicians sat next to me in my studio, which today is my kitchen. So, welcome to the show, Husk!
Hello. I definitely don't make punk, though.
No, definitely not.
I can appreciate it, but it's just not it's not what I do.
It's not how you roll.
Please don't expect that.
Well, we've got quite a track list, haven't we? So we've got lovely synth pop, a bit of punk, a bit of everything else, and not all of the songs I've actually listened to as of yet. So I'll be listening to them as we're going along. So that'll be fun for all of us. So yes, that's a little bit later on. Of course, first we're going to be getting on with our usual slightly depressing thing that we do at the start of the show, which is, of course, terrible news. Yay! It's terrible. And starting in a fairly obvious place this week, which is about the South African runner Caster Semenya, who has lost her appeal to compete without having to submit herself to hormone therapy. So this is a cisgender black woman who will have to start hormone therapy in order to continue with her career as a professional athlete. I'll be surprised if you haven't encountered this in some capacity in the news this week. There's been a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people arguing against it, and a lot of people very ill-informed or ill-advisedly arguing in favour of the ban or talking about things that they really don't have much of an idea about. So, to lay it all out, the Court of Arbitration for Sport rejected her appeal against new rules put in place by the International Association of Athletics Federations, or the IAAF, and said that whilst the new rules were discriminatory, they said that discrimination was necessary for preserving the integrity of women's sports. So Semenya won gold at both the 2012 and 2016 Olympics in the 800 metres and has been fighting for her right to compete for more or less the last 10 years, starting in 2009, when the IAAF forced her to go through sex verification due to her appearance not meeting their expectations of what a woman should look like.
Racism.
Oh, yeah, you think? You think? Yeah, I think there's a lot of things playing into this, but that is definitely front and centre. So the IAAF's rules have been alleged to be targeting Semenya specifically because they only apply to the women competing in the 400, 800 and 1500 metre events, which just coincidentally are the distances that she competes in. So as you said, racism, transphobia, intersex phobia and sexism appear to all be colliding together on this, which is forming a catastrophic shit show, which a lot of people are worried is going to have a terrible effect on women's sports. This is definitely worrying in Semenya's case because she is a cis woman and she's never come out as intersex or as trans or anything, but by the looks of the media, a lot of people are assuming that she is intersex. Fox News have incorrectly reported that she is transgender, which she isn't. So we weren't sure at first if this even was a story that comes under our remit as a trans news podcast, but we decided that basically it does because it's hard to look at the response from certain parties and not conclude that essentially transphobia was a factor in this decision, even though Semenya is a cisgender woman and identifies as such. So, as you might imagine, all the way through this, transphobes have still been calling for the exclusion of trans people. Sharon Davis, in a talk radio interview, called for a separate division for trans athletes. Martina Navratilova has doubled down on her bullshit in a Radio 4 interview, where she said that allowing trans athletes to compete in the gender division that aligns with their identity would open the door to cheats. And, of course, in our personal favourite, a text-based lump of shit by Janice Turner in The Times claimed that Semenya would probably still be allowed to run if it weren't for trans people kicking up a stink about trans people in sport. I mean, That's not us. We're not kicking up that stink. That's you, Janice Turner. Look in the fucking mirror. So this whole debate about what kinds of women should be allowed to compete in sports at the highest level isn't just a debate about trans people. It's quite clear that some good old-fashioned bigotries also have a part to play. Talking to Vox, Pigeon Pagonis, the co-founder of the Intersex Justice Project, said certain bodies are never allowed to be female, are never allowed to be women, are never allowed to just be. What I think this comes down to is, cast us faster than white girls and she made them cry. So, yes, apologies if I sound a bit angry for that one, but this whole thing has been incredibly frustrating to see because all of the usual suspects for, like, us, like the enemy as the trans community, are weighing in with their same ill-advised, harmful bullshit and saying, ha, see? But it's so mercilessly contradictory as well. So, what do you think, Michelle?
Oh. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing to see a bunch of quote-unquote feminists arguing that a cisgender woman should have to have hormone treatment to do her job, when they spend all their time arguing that nobody anywhere should have hormone treatment for almost anything. So, you know, good on them for being consistent and making total sense. And it's horrific what's happening to Caster Semenya, because like if she was a white woman, right, and she was if she was winning all the golds, she would be called a fucking prodigy right now. But that isn't the case. This is so clearly fucking racism and horror. And the thing is, she's never come out as intersex. The press are reporting on her as intersex because of an alleged leak from the sex verification tests that were never, like, she's never confirmed it. So if anybody says, oh, she's intersex, they either don't know what they're saying or they're outright lying, kind of, if you see what I mean, because it's never been confirmed. So
I've seen that claim repeated in a couple of different news outlets, though, to the extent that it's like, do you guys know? Do we know exactly what is the situation there? Because there was a tremendous amount of inconsistency with the way it was reported, and I'm sure some of it was some journalists were a little bit confused and obviously clearly too busy to make a couple of phone calls clarifying it.
They're hiding behind a phrase that I keep seeing coming up called, like, different sexual development, DSD, which is kind of a catch-all for like, not just intersex conditions, but a whole bunch of other stuff too. So they're hiding behind that, which is giving the impression that it has been confirmed as to what Caster Semenya's biology is. But she's never come out and said it. No one has officially come out and said what it is. So for all we know, she's basically she could just totally be like XX chromosome, cisgender woman, like all of that, and nobody would know otherwise, apart from, you know, racists and assholes just going, oh, but she's bigger and she runs fast, she must be cheating.
And that's the thing. So the whole conversation about bodies, several people have pointed out that swimmer, Michael Phelps...
Yeah, I heard this as well.
So the American singer Michael Phelps, who he's very, very good at the swimming, seemingly because his body only produces like half the amount of lactic acid as his competitors. That's the claim that I read specifically. But yet, this particular, twist of nature was written up as a tremendous genetic advantage, which, in no way disqualified him, even though his body was kind of out of step with what would have been expected from a male body kind of thing. Whereas flip it and apply it to Caster Semenya, and the outcome is very, very different, and she actually shouldn't be allowed to compete and it's just, again... we can see where the lines are here, considering, this white guy got absolutely praised and lauded for being able to do this thing, and applying the same standards to a black woman, and suddenly it's not fair because white athletes aren't winning and are crying about coming into 6th place or whatever.
But it's also because she's not profitable to the sport. If you look at people like Usain Bolt, like, he's obviously a massive asset to sell, a bunch of merchandise, tickets, whatever you kind of want to sell around that. He's got, such a big reach because he is absolutely phenomenal. But as we were saying earlier, because Caster Semenya doesn't fit the ideal that people want women to be, she obviously doesn't sell as well, so they don't really... The judgment obviously reflects that as well.
I mean, she should.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not particularly fond of the idea of advertising and marketing as concepts, but if Nike did a deal with her, I would be very happy to see that.
Yeah, me too.
I might even buy some
Yeah,
shoes.
definitely, yeah.
Like, okay, yes,
Well, I don't think I can afford the shoes. Like Nike are like 150 quid a pop. Who's got that kind of money?
You raise a good point. But it was... This entire thing was so frustrating because all of the usual suspects, so Janice Turner and Paula Radcliffe, and so people have been weighing in with this, misogynoir, essentially. It's this intersection of sexism and racism and misogyny and that's yeah.
But the best, when I was looking into this stuff this week, reading that Janice Turner piece, it was... I was literally shouting at my phone, going, What? How is this our fault? How? We're not in the IAAF. Go shout at Sebastian Coe, the guy who runs the fucking thing. How is this trans people's fault? How is everything trans people's fault?
It is when you work for the Times.
I was getting stage over a few years ago with the hashtag Thanks Obama.
Yes.
It's like that, but for trans people now. Like we've inherited that.
That's us, yeah. With our transgender privilege, hashtag.
Thanks, trans people. I had to wait at the library for 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, thanks trans people for the development and programming of microprocessors. Lynn Conway, Sophie Wilson, anyone? Pioneering use of the Moog synthesizer, Wendy Carlos, anyone? We could actually go on with a whole thanks trans people hashtag, but no one's going to bother because we're clearly too terrifying.
Spooky!
Ooh. Frustrating as that is, I'm sure it will rumble along and there will be additional things that happen that make lots of people very, very annoyed. And with any luck, it'll be the things that happen that make Sharon Radcliffe and Janice Turner really annoyed. Sharon Radcliffe? No. Sharon Davies and Paula... I'm just thinking...
just merge them.
They're all just one turf and, they all physically merge. That is a genuine fear of mine, actually. It's like, Wah!
You're saying they're like a turf king? When a bunch of rats get tangled together and become a rat king?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking more like The Thing, John Carpenter, Antarctica, that kind of thing, where instead of The Thing, it's the turf. And, every time a short-haired sociology professor who lives in London goes anywhere near it, it becomes bigger and stronger. So, anyway, I think we should...
I want to put out there that there's a couple of short-haired sociologists that are very trans-inclusive.
No, I know, I'm just
the stereotype is kind of there.
I am horrifically generalising for chuckles and for no other reason, and I apologise if you are a short-haired sociology professor who lives in London who is trans-inclusive.
All right, should we move on to the next thing?
Maybe we should before I say anything else that's going to get us in trouble. So,
moving on, in our last episode, we put out a plea for information about the upcoming Supreme Court appeals that have the potential to shape LGBT employment equality law in the US for decades to come. Thankfully, Perry Jones, a trans woman based in North Carolina, got in touch and volunteered to be our brand new American reporter/correspondent. I caught up with her on the good old Skype the other day to go over what the real situation is on the ground in America. So, have a listen. Perry Jones, thank you very much for joining us today. Can you tell us about these 3 cases that are going to be heard by the Supreme Court?
Sure. It's a conglomeration of 3 different cases with the basic same common theme. We've got this one happened in Michigan. That's the one that's most interesting to us. It's about a transgender woman who took off from time to work. She worked at a mortuary as a funeral director and started working on transitioning. And when she came back, she told her boss that this is happening. She's going to start dressing like it says in the dress code for a woman to dress. And she was pretty much just summarily fired. So she went to the federal government, to the Equal Opportunity Commission, and she talked about it. They decided that was in fact discrimination and filed suit on her behalf. She went up there and appeals started happening. Now that's being merged with one in Georgia, which was a gay man that started playing in a softball league for gay people. And this was a person that worked for Clayton County in Georgia and was fired from that for conduct on becoming a public employee. And that was after a long period of excellent reviews. So that one got there. And the Georgia court said that wasn't covered. Then we can take a look at another one in New York, which was more like that second one. It was another gay man that told a client to reassure her that he was gay, and that made her boyfriend really kind of awkward and made him uncomfortable. He complained to the place that he worked, and he got fired. The courts up there said that was discrimination, and basically these all have the same legal principle in play here, that either by being gay, you're not being a stereotypical man, so to discriminate against that, you are engaging in sexual discrimination, or in the transgender case, either she's not being their idea of what a man should do by being a woman, or she's not being a very good idea of what a woman should be by having come from presenting as a man.
So, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is the law that all these cases sort of revolving around. Title VII protects employment equality, employment opportunity, and this all boils down to, like, they list sex, race, stuff like that, but this comes under whether sex covers gender identity and sexual orientation. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. So basically,
got there. I'm correct about a thing. But anyway, sorry, serious work. Continue. Sorry, Perry.
Yeah, but what you were just saying was right on the mark, that the law only protects against sexual discrimination, against discriminating, saying that one sex is not fit for a job for some stupid reason or something like that. And that's why there's this difference in the three different cases. And the Georgia case said, well, gender identity and sexual orientation aren't listed on there, so the law doesn't cover them. While the other court said, yeah, but it's the way you're treating people and expecting people to behave and exist because of sex that is what the core of the discrimination, so it is covered. It's one of the main principles of the Supreme Court is to heal rifts in the different circuits in the different parts of this country and make it all one uniform law. So that's why the federal government or the Supreme Court granted review and decided to decide this case.
How did these specific cases get to the court?
So in the trial court, in the original district court, it was basically the employers versus the employees. And depending upon who wins that, who's going to file the appeal. So once it gets to the appeal court, you have an appealee and appealer, and so who's actually, and it kind of gets muddled of who's asking the court to intervene. They're asking the court to intervene by saying the lower court is wrong. And so that's why you see that kind of looking at it at a different perspective at the higher courts, even though it's really still just a contest between the two different parties.
In your opinion, how likely is it that it will be ruled that sex also covers sexuality and gender identity in the upcoming Supreme Court case?
Well, that would be a wonderful decision, I think. I think I'm going to give it a 40% chance. I think right now, if you look at the makeup of the Supreme Court, we've got about 4 votes that were appointed under Clinton and Obama, and about 5 that were appointed under the 2 different President Bushes and President Trump. So I think that there's a really good chance there's going to be a 5-4 decision saying that we need to just look at the original text. It doesn't say anything about it, so you can't assume the law says it.
If it doesn't go LGBT people's way, what other options are there? Could legislators, like senators, congresspeople, etc., could they add an amendment to the Civil Rights Act explicitly protecting sexuality and gender identity? Or could they make a whole new act? Will this basically shut the door on this issue for all time?
Absolutely not. So it's not a constitutional issue. It's nothing like that. It's just a ruling about a single law. It's a very powerful law, but it's a single law. If you look at what's in Congress right now, we have HRC is blasting out SMS messages asking people to call your congressman today and stuff like that, because there are bills to do it. There's an Equality Act going through Congress right now. It's just been released from the Judiciary Committee to the House to speak on, that would do exactly that. It would amend it to have the Civil Rights Act to have gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation all as part of this act explicitly stated there.
Perry, thank you very much for joining us.
Anytime, Michelle.
So, does that make things any clearer?
I think it does, honestly. I had read in various sources about these 3 cases. I hadn't actually managed to pick up what the details of the other 2 were, because I'd heard of the one from Michigan about the trans woman and the being fired from the funeral home. But I wasn't aware of the Georgia and New York cases. I'd just heard them being referred to as these 3 cases, so now I know the details of the other ones. I think the concern is that it hinges on the interpretation of an already written law, doesn't it? And that nothing's going to be changed from this. This is about how that law is interpreted, and specifically whether the word, sex discrimination covers LGBT and specifically T discrimination in the workplace or in any other place. And so that's kind of where the problem is. As Perry said, that the actual makeup of the Supreme Court at the moment, could make an interpretation that is not kind to the LGBT community much more likely. What did she say? That was 40% chance of this going positively?
Mm-hmm. That she believes, which I thought that was a high number. I would have put it down to 20, but she knows more than me.
Well, quite, and that's the thing, ask somebody in America, because you and I have spent hours and hours on Skype calls trying to wrap our head around the vagaries of the American political and court systems, and honestly, the easiest thing is just to ask somebody who lives there. So that's what we did. So do we know the date yet when this is going to be heard in the Supreme Court?
The only information I could find was it will be heard in the 2019-2020 docket. I asked Perry what that meant, and she was like, that could basically mean any time in the next 18 months.
Lovely stuff.
But we will know about it when it happens, and we will obviously report on it a lot here. And if you want to help people on the right side of these cases, like I must have said about 10 or 12 times in this podcast right now, donate money to the ACLU. They are specifically representing 2 of these 3 cases, so they need your cash. We'll provide a link in the description. Send them a couple of quid if you can.
Yes, and link in the description as always. So, moving on then. On the same side of the world, but slightly further south, it's been a while since we've updated you on the situation in Brazil, where a fascist bag of mutton in a bag toupee has been recently elected president. According to a couple of our sources in the country, things are getting worse. Education officials recently have begun cutting 30% of university funding due to the university's perceived ideological stances. Also, according to a report in The Guardian, Jair Bolsonaro, the aforementioned president, has begun calling for school students to film their teachers if they suspect they're pushing leftist ideas. In other words, Bolsonaro is looking to stamp out any opposing views, and the Brazilian government is openly targeting what it sees as left-wing institutions. So we've seen stuff like this happening before by that Austrian guy, from the past. You know the one. There's a lot of documentaries about him. Homophobia and transphobia are also rampant in the country, as anybody who has attended a Trans Day of Remembrance event will probably be aware. Many of the names read out are Brazilian trans women of colour, and so they need our help. We'll be putting a link in the description for Casa One, an LGBTQ cultural centre and shelter that offers many services to the Brazilian LGBTQ people, including courses, therapy, place to stay for people who have nowhere else to go. So please sign up if you can, donate monthly if you might be able to, or share if you can't, or try. They need help, and as little as £1 a month can help them in so many ways. So that is www.casaum.org, casaum.org. Yeah, that's more of an appeal to action and a reminder that Brazil is still under the yoke of fascism, essentially. Which I shouldn't laugh about.
Yeah, we now have 2 people that I can sort of message every now and again to see what's going on. So we'll be keeping you up to date as much as we can on this, because we could easily go on about America forever, but Brazil is arguably in a worse position right now when it comes to trans equality, so we'd like to keep you guys in the loop on that as much as we can.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, moving right along. Next, we go to Scotland, where Scottish National Party MSP Joan McAlpine has only gone and invited Meghan fucking Murphy, prime transphobe, to address Scotland's Parliament. Murphy, the founder of the transphobic nightmare website Feminist Current, an all-round bigoted ass, made her name regularly arguing that not being around trans women is a human right on her garbage website for garbage people. And now she is going to speak at the Scottish Parliament in Committee Room 2 on the 22nd of May. Just saying, that's where it's going to happen. If you want to show up there with megaphones and placards, that's entirely your prerogative. Rhiannon Spear, chair of the Time for Inclusive Education campaign and councillor for Glasgow, has called inviting Murphy to speak at the Scottish Parliament stoking a fire and has heavily criticised the move. Joan McAlpine, MSP for the South Scotland region, has repeatedly argued with LGBT activists on Twitter over trans rights, including calling medical intervention on trans kids experimenting on kids, and seemingly sharing every transphobic thing the Times has to say on the matter. In a statement released to Alan Jenkins of Channel 5 News, McAlpine stated that Parliament is a place which values freedom of speech, and I am delighted that Meghan is coming to discuss the Canadian experience, allowing males to self-identify as women and access single-sex spaces and services.
Sorry, go on.
It's okay. I had to stop for a groan too. Thankfully, the Scottish Parliament confirmed to Pink News that it had no part in organising Murphy's appearance and said this was entirely down to McAlpine. This nonsense over trans issues in the Scottish National Party first became widely prominent after Twitter direct messages between MSPs Ruth Maguire, Gillian Martin and Ash Denham were leaked. In the messages, the three criticised First Minister Nicola Sturgeon for backing trans rights and trans equality. I mean, what a dick Nicola is for backing equality. My God.
I know. Curse you, Nicola.
So the SNPs may not be the safe harbour for trans people that many have believed before. Yeah, not a lot to say about this. It just kind of sucks, right?
Well, a little bit, yeah. To me, parts of it are at least slightly hilarious, really. Because, again, we're seeing how that language that is used by people who call themselves feminists. And so that canard that's there, allowing males to self-identify as women. And it's the same language, and we've talked about this before, Michelle, where it's like they can't just say men and women or girls and boys, it's males and females.
Yeah.
Like they're the Daleks or something. Male detected. You know, it's like, and I know they are deliberately kind of using slightly more scientific sounding terms so that they sound more authoritative, but it just makes them sound cartoonishly villainous, which kind of is what they are, particularly in Meghan Markle's case. Have you come across her at all?
No,
not Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle's a different person.
Oh, it's Meghan Murphy.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Whoops. Well, I don't know. Maybe Meghan Markle's a transphobe anyway. I don't even...
Well, apparently, her and Harry have come out and support,
they haven't they? Yeah, Harry's been very supportive of mermaids, which...
So yes to Meghan Markle,
no to Meghan Murphy. Yeah, the annoying thing is, because I am not a royalist, and so when the royals... or when a young royal does something that I actually do support, genuinely, like, you know, supporting mermaids and whatever, I'm like, oh, wow, that's really good, but I am ideologically opposed to your existence. You know, like, oh, how am I supposed to think of that? But yeah, so Meghan Murphy is just sort of, like, she has a Canadian Anne Coulter or something in a sense, isn't she? She's sort of like a right-wing conservative pundit, and the thing that she's picked, like so many of them have picked up on to try and drive a wedge within the LGBTQ community, is trans issues, and saying, oh, well, you know, these people are disgusting, you know, all that drop the T stuff that they kind of argue along with. But bringing this over to Scotland, I was a bit surprised when all of that stuff surfaced about these messages within the SNP, but then you stop and think about it for a second, and it's like, well, you know, it's a big political party. Not everybody's going to be kind of aligned in the same way. So, as an example, the Labour Party, on the whole, are openly supportive of LGBT rights. It's in their charter and stuff, but still, one of their MPs voted against the government's motion recently for the same-sex inclusion in primary and secondary schools, which we spoke about sort of 2 or 3 episodes ago, Michelle.
Yeah.
So one Labour MP voted against that, even though that is kind of against his party line. So there could well be people, the SNP, which could have a note within its charter or whatever saying, we're LGBT inclusive, we're not interested in that flavour of discrimination. But some people obviously just haven't paid much attention when reading that part, or assumes it doesn't apply to them. And these views sort of propagate themselves inside the larger organisation. You know, a beautiful parasite. Sorry, that was a bit much, wasn't it? But I'm not suggesting that, like, and transphobes are Hydra, but transphobes are Hydra. So watch out for those.
It's weird. I was looking into, like, who I'm going to vote for in the upcoming EU elections, and I sort of had a few caveats. Like, I didn't want to vote for anyone who has supported anti-Semitism. I didn't want to vote for anyone who supported Islamophobia. I didn't want to vote for anyone who obviously is a nightmare on the right. And finally, someone who hasn't, ostensibly said something transphobic. And you know who I ended up at, after looking for all those options? The Liberal Democrats.
Mm.
They're the only party I could find who have not done any of that. I mean, I could be wrong, but from my research, they're the only ones, and yet, politically, I'm not really in line with them. But they may get my vote by default because they're the only ones who so far haven't had a big transphobia scandal.
Basically, although, well, Tim, I know he's not the leader anymore, but Tim Farron, who was like, oh, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
And then I'm not, and then I'm sorry, and then he just left, and it's like, well, that's just classic Lib Dem. That isn't it? Just, okay, I'm leaving. So, well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, my main thing for the upcoming EU elections is vote for somebody who is not Tommy Robinson. Although that's been kind of hilarious when Stephen Yaxley Lennon has been in town around near Manchester recently, in Bury and Warrington, and had milkshakes thrown at him 2 days in a row. It was hilarious. So
I'm not going to ask where you were on those 2 days, Ashley.
I wasn't. No, I was out in Middleton the following day trying to go for the hat trick along with 100 other people, all with milkshakes. No. I really hope that's a thing now, that people with milkshakes are following him around wherever he goes and he gets really, really nervous. So, yes. We've digressed slightly once again from the thrust of the story.
I mean, this is what we do.
That is kind of what we do. Well, let's crack on with the next bit and wrap up the news and then get onto the music and get our groove on. So, for some hopefully good, potentially news in the future. I totally made a mess of that sentence, didn't I? Keep it in, I say. Oh, it is in, damn it. So, according to a report on BuzzFeed, which we have no reason to doubt at this point, a former night editor of The Times is suing the paper for transphobic discrimination, which as an outcome, as something to sort of come up in the news I was not expecting. I just was not, because I thought, how on earth has a trans person even been working there? Surely they wouldn't. Well, anyway, according to reports by Patrick Strudwick, who is the LGBT editor for BuzzFeed in the UK, Catherine O'Donnell worked as the night editor for the Scottish edition of The Times for 14 years, but was later made redundant. Now, O'Donnell is arguing that the dismissal was unfair, and that whilst working for the paper, she suffered transphobic bullying and being denied opportunities for pay rises and promotions. So the full report of this, which obviously we're going to put a link to in the description, features, well, many horrific stories of O'Donnell's Times career. One of the most astonishing was during a news meeting with two senior editors when a trans woman's murder was mentioned, and one of the editors made a transphobic joke and likened being trans to a lifestyle choice. So, talking to Strudwick, O'Donnell said that she left the room in shock and immediately, was ill in the toilets after hearing this. So the report goes on to say that the case could actually have far-reaching implications for the news media, because part of O'Donnell's case is how the constant transphobic coverage of trans issues by the Times was one of the factors that has contributed to her hostile working environment, and her internal protests against the coverage have then gained her a reputation for being difficult that might have been one of the factors in her redundancy. So potentially, if O'Donnell wins this case, this could mean that newsrooms will have to consider the impact of racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, etc. news coverage will have on their own employees. That could set a precedent for other members of minority groups to launch their own legal actions against any publications that they may work for. So obviously we'll absolutely encourage you to read this story yourself, Patrick Strudwick, BuzzFeed UK. But what do you two think?
I mean, I don't see how you could argue against how that would directly affect her working conditions.
Right.
Obviously, the consistent, it was just blatant. It's still there, obviously, but there was a period of time where it was every day there'd be something horrendous about trans people, just utter lies as well, in the Times. And, they definitely have impacted how, her colleagues, interacted with her. And obviously she would have protested it, and I totally see how that would have given her the reputation of being difficult. And then, obviously, if you're kind of arguing against people who might just see it as, I'm just doing my job, they're not going to like you. Yeah. So,
it's like 6 or 7 no-win situations in a row, isn't it?
Yeah.
But because, of course, if O'Donnell is protesting against these stories that are grievously transphobic, which many of them are. And she possibly is going to know by name the people whose name it's under, their byline. I'm like, oh, well, I know him, or I know her, and and so knowing that these people, ostensibly friends and colleagues, are working on stuff which is directly attacking you and your own mental health and your community and everything, that has got to have a massive impact. I've never been in that situation myself. That's a very, very specific situation, isn't it? But you can easily see how that must be difficult to deal with from a mental health perspective. I would say.
I've been in that position before where people I've worked with have said things about trans people, and knowing I was trans as well. And it's a really difficult situation. I mean, luckily enough, I was not in a position, was in a kind of more. I think O'Donnell was probably in a more restricted position than I was. Is what I'm trying to say, and I just actively called them out, and it kind of ended there. So I mean, I'm lucky in that sense. But I mean, it's such a competitive world as well, working in media, that it would have been incredibly difficult for her to protest. The kind of stories that people were pitching. So I mean, even to do that is impressive.
Yes.
So I kind of I hope that it at least opens the dialogue a little bit more about holding these publications accountable for the things that they're writing.
Yeah, right. With I mean, I hope she wins. I hope she wipes the floor with it. To be perfectly honest, it's like right, there you go.
Yeah, like newsrooms, like from what I've heard, can be quite toxic anyway. Like to even your standard, like, privileged cis white male, like, you have to put out something. Like, you absolutely have to put a thing out at 4 a.m. or whatever, and if you don't, you're done. And potentially you're done in the whole industry, because if you don't meet a deadline, that's it.
Yeah. Well, her job title was night editor, which is, you don't even think that's a thing, but obviously it is.
Well, they got to put together a front page in that old legacy media.
Yeah.
Bless the legacy media.
Bless them. I know, God, they're so adorable, aren't they, with their dying readership and outdated views. Yeah, so I know I personally am very interested to see how this case goes, purely out of spite. Yeah, really, for me, it's just like, I hate the Times so much, I hope this woman absolutely destroys them, and goes and works somewhere where they're nice to her and respect her opinions and stuff, instead of working in a so obviously hideously toxic, nasty, retrograde place.
I mean, can you imagine transitioning whilst working at the Times?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to...
And she was there for 14 years as well.
And she did transition while working there.
Exactly.
I'm not sure precisely when that happened.
Oh, she did. She transitioned whilst right in the middle of her 14-year stint.
Oh, I see. So that must have been no fun at all. Or maybe it was okay originally, or maybe the Times' anti-trans stance is because they decided they didn't like Catherine O'Donnell, which seems a bit much, really. Now that is spite. If that was the case, that would be spite. No, I seriously doubt that. I think they're just collectively a bunch of dickheads, as you might expect. Anyway, let's keep our eye on that one. Best of luck to Catherine O'Donnell. I, really hope that causes some changes a little bit more widely, but we shall see. What's the next thing?
Well, the final thing is some community news. We've only got one thing this week. Trans Pride London is happening. Trans Pride London will take place on September 14th, which is good for me because I live in London, so I can just get the bus there, which is pretty great. They are still working on the specifics of the venue, but the organisers say that the event will take place in the Hackney area of North London. So clear a space in your diary and check out the Facebook group, facebook.com/London Trans Pride. Linked in the description. Excellent news. More trans prides. We want trans prides in every city, in every town, in every village, in every hamlet. We want trans prides everywhere.
Yes. Although I was just thinking like a hamlet of trans pride. I was like, well, we haven't actually got any trans people, so...
Oh, we'll bust them in.
Oh, yeah, we'll bust them in, or we'll just turn up and be, kings and queens and non-binary presidents for the day, or whatever. Okay, sweet. I mean, you kind of do want to see that happening way more widely,
I think even not just trans-specific prides, more trans people at kind of general prides.
That would be good, but then... That opens the door to the question recently about are a lot of prides in the UK really as trans-inclusive as they claim?
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, there you go.
Well, this specific trans pride, they were talking to people at Gay Star News, I think. I might have got that slightly wrong. They were saying that the turfy invasion of London Pride last year was definitely a factor in why they thought about starting this up.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, look forward to see how that goes. September, I have a ridiculously busy summer, essentially, this year. So there's going to be some prides and trans/LGB events that I'm just not going to be able to make it to. But September is after all of that. So it's like, ooh, cool. Maybe I could go on a nice little trip to London. I'm sure I could manage that.
I will definitely be there, and I may be involved in some capacity, but I will tell you more as and when that happens.
Nearer the time. All righty.
Yeah.
So that concludes the news, and
So now we have put the news to bed. Let's have a boogie. Welcome to our trans music Boodie-Tacular.
it should have been funky in there.
You're really good at the face trumpet. You're really good at that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, to be honest.
Okie dokie. Well,
gonna get a sample of that.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah.
I'll record one for you later. So yes, we have. Well, Michelle really has collected together a lot of diverse different artists of many, many different genres, either by trans artists operating solo or by bands and groups of people collaborating. We have many, many options. But yes, so Husk is here. We'll get onto one of your actual songs a little bit later. But so it's one of the new ones, isn't it? You've got a new album?
So it's just a single this time.
Okay.
It was out 2 weeks ago. But it's doing okay. I'm happy with it.
Doing well on
track.
Spotify.
It's doing well on Spotify, yeah.
So yeah, actively encourage everyone here to go seek out Husk on all of the things. HuskNoise.com, Husk Noise on Facebook, Husk Noise on Twitter, Husk Noise all over the place. Go check out his work, because he is pretty great.
Absolutely.
You are on brand. And we have that very song by Husk coming up in a little while. But first we're going to do some other ones from people who've contributed music to us since we put out the appeal on our social medias.
Yes, thank you very much for sending us your songs. That is really, really good of you. We got so many, we can't play them all. So I apologise if you sent us a song and we haven't been able to play it. I will message you all directly, and you probably already received a message from me by now, but if you haven't, I will message you directly and try and figure out a way to get you on the show at some point. But first up, let's have some nice little laid-back pop tunage from Roma Lane. Here is Human Nature.
I know that this sounds bad, it's just I don't know where to start. When you're bringing us together just to rip us all apart. I know what you're up to, but I don't know why. I know that this sounds bad, it's just I don't know where to start. But when you're bringing us together just to rip us all apart. I know what you're up to, but I don't know why. We won the battle, lost the war. No, I said I would deliver, I'm not in the mood at all. I know. There's no turning back, we've got to stay on track. It's only human nature to try to get back to where you've been. We've got to find another way. Right, let's stop, I've got some things I need to think through. It makes no sense, I'm out the loop, don't wanna be misconstrued. Let's slow it down, I know my diction is shit. Just kill me, just a little bit. It's only human nature to try to get back to where you've been. We've gotta find another way. It's only human nature to try to get back to where you've been. We've gotta find another way. I guess I see what you mean, but that's not to say you've done no wrong. I've gotta build up where I'm down. find another way. I'm not invincible, no, that would be just too easy. I guess I'm oversharing. I'm so sorry. It's only human nature to get back up when you're not down. It's only human nature. I'll still be here.
All right, so that was Roma Lane with Human Nature, and I really like that.
Yeah, synth pop like gives me life, so that was definitely right up my street.
For true, I did wonder actually. So just to clarify, the majority of these songs I've not listened to, Michelle has. Alfie's basically not heard any of them.
No, I've
Well,
not.
I think you've heard the same couple that I have.
I think you must have heard your song, Husk, right? Like, you must have.
I've heard that. I've heard that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, once or twice. Maybe he isn't. But yeah, so I'm just jotting down notes on little cards as we're listening to these, right? And so first word, Cynthia, with an exclamation mark. So, but I don't know if you noticed, but the lyrics as well, like particularly with Joy the Bit, my diction is shit, and there are not many pop tracks that you'll hear with the word misconstrued in the lyrics. I am very much a fan of this. So,
I really like it. I think pop has got a really bad reputation, but pop is actually amazing, and it's actually really hard to do. But I love it when people use like really interesting words.
Yes.
in their lyrics, and pop is it's great.
Getting a good pop hook is hard, and
that was what I was going to say.
like this has been something I've been humming ever since Roma sent it to us, and it's up there. Like, and her voice is just love it.
So very much up there. Check her out, Roma Lane.
You can find all of her stuff on Spotify, iTunes, and we'll link to her social medias and stuff on the big document thing that we always have.
Rock and roll. Okay, so what do we have coming up next?
Next, we have Leia, who is a non-binary hip-hop R&B performer. They are pretty great. Let's just check them out.
I thought I told you to stop calling me. You don't get it? I don't want nothing to do with you. Matter of fact, block my number.
It's been a really long time. I try to move on, but you always cross my mind. And I can't forget all the memories that we left behind. I tried to find something alike. You were so incredible, your actions were not credible. And now I'm better alone. And then you text me out the blue. Now I don't know what to do.
I told you I needed space. You wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case. I told you I needed space. You wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case. Catch a. I want you.
Got me thinking about my body on your body. Temptation, so excited. Way I'm feeling, can't describe it. I'm with you. Ain't gotta tell nobody. We can do it for tonight. Let's do it for tonight. I'm with you. Got me thinking about my body on your body. Temptation, so excited. Way I'm feeling, can't describe it. I'm with you. Ain't gotta tell nobody. We can do it for tonight. Let's do it for tonight. I'm with you.
You done talking, I wanna open your legs like a fortune. You can sit on my front like a porch and I make the pussy rainforest. Floor is where we gonna be. Can't make the bed, bitch, IDC. Fuck them sheets, relationship on BRB. Can't nobody fuck like me like I can. No, my can. Juices start spraying like Zycan. Wow, I feel like you want it but don't wanna own it. Cause when I get horny, I step out the door. I try to do better. Score to try to make credit. You the best part of me, yeah, all of me. It's hard to admit it.
I told you I needed space. You wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case. I told you I needed space. You wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case. Catch a. I want you.
Got me thinking about my body on your body. Temptation, so excited. Way I'm feeling, can't describe it. I'm with you. Ain't gotta tell nobody. We can do it for tonight. Let's do it for tonight. I'm with you. Got me thinking about my body on your they don't speak and we know we shouldn't do it, so we sneak. You love my physique, tryna reach my peak. Got me shaking, feeling weak. It's just a night, don't worry, who gon' see?
I told you I needed space, you wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case. I told you I needed space, you wouldn't make me catch a case. Catch a case, catch a
Got me thinking about my body on your body, temptation so exciting, way I'm feeling, can't describe it. I'm with you, ain't gotta tell nobody. We can do it for tonight, let's do it for tonight. I'm with you. Got me thinking about my body on your body, temptation so exciting, way I'm feeling, can't describe it. I'm with you, ain't gotta tell nobody. We can do it for tonight, let's do it for tonight. I'm with you.
Alright, that was Leia with I'm With You featuring Reese. I do like how dirty that got in the middle. You don't usually hear, like,
I know, right?
you don't usually hear a lot of music where it just goes into the down and dirty of essentially lesbian sex. Leia identifies themselves as a non-binary lesbian, so I can see, like, you don't usually hear that stuff like that. And the lyrics of it just open your legs like a...
Yeah, go on, finish that sentence.
I want to, but I can't remember the specific words now.
I know.
Open your legs like a fortune? I can't
think
remember.
that was it, yeah. So that was what we picked up on as well on this end. It was just like, wow, this is not subtle at all, is it? But but then, you know, fuck subtlety. I know musicians who use subtlety, and they're all cowards. No, that was great. That was a really groovy little thing, and we were nerding out slightly over the little synth stabs in the background. That was great. So... cool.
I really like the beat as well. I love it when there's like loads of different layers to the beat. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I was picking up on the sort of percussion in the background.
Yeah,
There was kind of a few things going on, like a little thing. Yeah, it's great. So this
I'm sitting here with a couple of proper music nerds, aren't I?
Come on, you knew this.
I come at this as a fan, but I mean, Husk, you are a creator, and Ashley, you have your own musical projects out there in the world.
I do.
So you'd probably know the in-depth stuff, whereas I'm just there like, I like the bit where they said the dirty things.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there'll be plenty more dirty things in the upcoming songs. But our next one coming up is a little bit special because of who it's by. So this is a song called Ray, and the artist's name is Soft Vowel Sounds. But Soft Vowel Sounds is the music name alter ego of writer Julia Serrano. So I've known that she's a musician as well. Obviously I've read two of her books, both of which are very, very good. But yes, this is the first bit of her music that I've actually heard, and she sent this over to us, didn't she, Michelle?
A while ago she followed our Twitter, which made me very excited because at that point we hadn't followed her. I just didn't think about it like when we were first setting up the Twitter account, but she followed us and I was like, what? What? Julia fucking Serrano's following our Twitter? And then just out of the blue, when I put out the call for music, she messaged us. Just like, yo, do you want to put a song in? And I'm like,
yes.
And I literally messaged her saying, holy fucking Christ. Your book was everything to me. I love you. But then I reined it back, just like professional mode kicking in. Absolutely. Which song were you thinking of sending in? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, play it cool, yeah. So, yeah, check it out. This is Ray by Soft Vowel Sounds.
I was in a bar in Soma, writing in my laptop, when this guy came over. He asked me what I was doing. I looked up somewhat annoyed and said, I'm working on a novel. Normally I'd blow him off, but I had writer's block. I couldn't come up with an adequate plot twist, so I let him chat me up. It was an innocuous conversation until he asked me to dance. It was weird, the DJ hadn't even set up yet. And then he placed his hand on my knee and smiled, and suddenly our brief exchange became a little bit creepy. Now I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why straight boys always fine nursing my Racer 5, but he came back with champagne. He told me that his name was Ray. He asked me mine, and I replied it doesn't rhyme with the name of a soda. But he didn't get the joke, though. He kept pestering me, and so I told him what my name is now and what my name used to be. Now I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why cis boys are always so surprised to find out that I'm trans. Ray headed for the door and fell to his knees. It was so melodramatic, I almost wanted to laugh. And I know better than that, because you never know when a surprise cis guy might suddenly turn violent. A few weeks after the fact, I was writing at the same gay bar when Ray came back. He said he had something for me. I was concerned at first until he handed me a home-burnt CD. He said he wrote a song about me. I asked, does it come with trigger warnings? But he didn't get the joke, though. And as soon as he gave it to me, I had an amazing idea, a new character for my story. And his name was Ray, but I would never assume he spelled it R-A-Y. 'Cause when you assume, you make an ass of yourself, not to mention me. Life isn't a movie, and people aren't plot twists. Please consider this. This is a parody, so please don't sue me. Please write more songs like Waterloo Sunset.
Alright, so that was Ray by Soft Valve Sounds, aka Julia Serrano. You could get that off, and the whole EP, Ray vs. Macbeth and the Music Box Part 1, from softvalvesounds.bandcamp.com. It's name your price. So if you've haven't got any money, you can get 4 wonderful songs by Soft Valve Sounds for free. And apparently that last song, Ray, is sort of it's intended to be a charming contemporary musical parody of Lola by the Kinks.
Yes.
Which sort of makes sense when you listen to the lyrics. Well, what did you guys think? I fucking love that song.
Yeah,
So-
but I didn't realise at first because I didn't know that he was called Ray Davis.
Right.
And then Ashley explained it to me, and then
But
it was amazing from that point on.
But I didn't realise that. So my notes kind of demonstrate my kind of the journey that I went on throughout that song, right? So I was like, ooh, story time. Okay, folkish start. Ooh, hang on. And then I've written down, I'm not whatever, but I can't understand reference to Lola. And then I've written on the next line, Ray, in capital letters. So the song's called Ray, and the Kinks song is called Lola. And it's like, oh, well, my name rhymes with the soft beverage, because it's one of the lyrics of Lola.
Yeah.
And the lead singer of the Kinks' name is Ray Davis, so who I have actually seen play live at the Isle of Wight Festival many years ago. So yes, I really liked that. I thought that was a super little song, but he didn't get the joke though. Brilliant. So yeah, fantastic. Sorry, I'm really cheerful now.
Yeah, this is very much part of I have a playlist of songs that I play in the shower in the morning.
Yeah.
And this is very much one of them that comes on, because it just gets me pumped up for the day.
I can see how that might be the case, yeah. So, wonderful. What is next?
Alright, next we have some, I'm going to show my age now by calling it electronica. This is very much a production piece. This is Sushi by Wangle Line, who is a trans woman who makes wonderful electronic music. Here we go.
Emotions, thoughts, music, England, Tibet. Everything in the universe.
So that was Sushi by Wangle Line, who is, I believe, a solo electronic artist. There's a few of those on our list, and I've got to be honest, I really liked that. It started off kind of, atmospheric and spooky, and then it's kind of jumped into this noise-ish thing. What I wrote down was like a Mega Drive with a corrupted processor, because it had a lot of arrhythmic weirdness going on. But then Alfie pointed out that that's actually very clever, because that's a time signature change in the song.
Mm-hmm. And it's really hard. It all fitted together really well, and that's really hard to do because it was so different each part. It was like trying to fit that together. It was impressive.
Yeah. Really enjoyed it.
It sounded as well like they were having loads of fun.
Yeah.
Loads of fun doing it. I was right there as well.
We'll have this noise and we'll have this and
yeah,
I love that. So
it totally reminded me, like I came to my music through old-fashioned guitar rock, and this reminded me of so many bands I've seen over the years who do like post-rock, post-metal, like math rock stuff. Like I was just like, I'm pretty sure I've heard this kind of thing in Dillinger Escape Plan songs, but they're very different. They're a very different musical outfit.
Slightly different selection of instruments, I guess. But
yeah, and lots of shouting and screaming, which is very much my thing. But look, all of the little the key changes, the time signature stuff, all of that was in there, and it's just
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm right with you. Cool. All right. Well, let's crack on. We've got a bunch of these to get through, so...
Yeah, if you like the sound of that, if you like the sound of Wangle Line, check out the SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Wangle Line. Go check it out. And, of course, all the links for all the musicians we'll be playing today will be in the description. So if you like what you hear, go there and support trans musicians.
No, you totally should, because we are out there, and there's loads of us, and we're doing all sorts of fun, different things, and we should support each other. So, on that subject, the next one is an artist called Where's Today, and the song is I'm never sure how you say this, because it's it's them little arrow pointing to the left now, and so it's like now is better than them, but I'm never sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. But yes. So do you have any information about this track, Michelle?
Yeah, basically this comes from the album The Outcast Club. You can also get this off the Where's Today Bandcamp, where'stoday.bandcamp.com. It is also Name Your Price. You can get the whole album, all 9 songs, for nothing if you haven't got any money, but I would obviously encourage you to throw a few quid, if you can, at this wonderful, wonderful artist, because I really enjoyed this one. I keep saying that, but seriously, when I put the call out for trans musicians, I was surprised at the level of quality we received. Just because I was expecting to get so many band camps of someone sat at home tapping his xylophone or something, and it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
I was genuinely delighted with the quality of stuff we were getting sent, and this is definitely one of them. So here's Where's Today with Then Now.
Same story, different name.
Okay, that was Where's Today, Then Now. Gotta say, I am a sucker for a big anthemic chorus. I loved it when that stuff drops. What do you guys think?
We had kind of the same observation about it, like big balladish, starting off with that organ and the finger clicks.
It was kind of like pure pop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were picturing, like, waving lighters. I mentioned, like, this is not a criticism anyway, because I absolutely love Eurovision, but I mentioned Eurovision, how they'll be, like, waving the flags, and, like, I don't know if anyone saw it last year, but I think Norway had, like, a big, like, Viking type thing. Nice. And I kind of pictured that. That would be really cool.
Cool, yeah. But it definitely had a kind of... to an extent, like a You're the Voice vibe, You're the voice, try and understand, that kind of whole thing, and big anthemic chorus, as you say. So, but, like, I was expecting a lot of this trance music that we're getting in to be noise, punk, and synth pop. And that's not to say those genres haven't been represented so far and won't be as we go along. Yeah. But it is great, like, so that kind of came out and surprised me, essentially, because it's an ambitious thing to do. Yeah. Like a big anthemic pop Eurovision-y track is something that some people might look at and say, no, I don't want to do one of those. That's a bit kind of whatever, naff or whatever. But, they've just gone for it, and it's great. So, yeah. Don't let other people's idea of what is and isn't cool hold you back, essentially. So, yeah, glad to hear something like that, because it's got ambition, it's got scale. So, yes, good fun. I enjoy it. And coming up next, we have an artist called Alex Valentine, who is a trans woman, she, her pronouns, and the song is called Fake. So let's get straight into that. Right, Alex Valentine with Fake with Riffage. Yeah. And the other thing I wrote down was explicit lyrics and relatable. So there you go.
Not sugar-coated at any point.
Nope, no sugar.
Fabulous, love it.
Yeah. No should it be. So yes, you can check out Alex Valentine on Twitter at DEX01, and they're also on Bandcamp, so alexvalentine.bandcamp.com. Check it out. Lovely, punky, riffy, angry, shouty goodness.
Yeah, on the Bandcamp, you can get her whole album, Incredibly Loud, Extremely Gay, for £7. And Fake is the opening track of that, so you get 14 tracks of awesome, punky goodness. So yeah, go do that.
That is a wonderful album name. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Gay. Love it. All right, and up next?
Up next, we've got Chris Hubris with The Boy Who Wasn't There. Change of tone, change of speed. You'll hear what I mean right now.
Standing on the edge of space, thinking of the world's embrace, trying not to lose his faith, has no center, has no place, in between and upside down, looking up into the ground. He can barely see the ground. Feet are held but won't be bound. He will be awoken. He will be unbroken. Starlight falling from his hand. The boy who wasn't there. In that place above the sky, he sees all that is alive. He knows how we all survive. He is close but far too wide. In that place there's nothing there. I reach out but just grasp at. I'm fallen but I don't despair. I will find you, this I swear. I will be awoken. I will be unbroken. Starlight falling from my hair. Boy who wasn't there.
Alright, that was Chris Hubris with The Boy Who Wasn't There. You can get his EP, Celestial Hubris and the Dystopia Birthday Experience, available for pay what you want on his Bandcamp. Check out chrishubris.bandcamp.com, or you can follow him on Twitter at Chris_Hubris. Ooh, that was a bit Bowie, wasn't it? I like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, the vocals, like...
Kind of spooky, and well, the word I jotted down was experimental, because that was not like your standard pop track, right?
Yeah.
It didn't, I mean, maybe it was formatted like one, but just the sounds of it was all a bit, swooshy, trippy, which obviously I really like.
That song did make me contemplate taking LSD for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't have any access to LSD, and I'd probably be a complete fucking dick on LSD, but that makes me want to try it anyway.
So tweet us at WhatTheTrans if you want to help Michelle score some... No. Please do not tweet us at WhatTheTrans and offer us hallucinogenics. I don't think that's a good idea. So, up next is another act which is composed of somebody whose name you may have heard before. So this is Dispute Settlement Mechanism with their delightful, cheerful little song, Pig Fuck Initiation.
Best song name ever.
I know, right?
The best song name ever, right?
Dispute Settlement Mechanism are a band, and one of the members of this band is Dr. Ruth Pierce, whose name has crossed our desks once or twice before. This is up on Bandcamp at disputesettlementmechanism.bandcamp.com. You can also follow Ruth Pierce herself on Twitter at NotRightRuth. And so here is the track, Pig Fuck Initiation. Sounds delightful.
fuck me. I keep saying this for every song, but I fucking love that song. That is exactly my jam. I'm a big fan of noise rock and metal and punk and all of that.
I was enjoying the riff.
And yeah, I actually kicked over my glass of water and my glass broke a little bit. I don't know if you could hear. Maybe just shout fuck halfway through that. That might have mixed in with the song a bit too much, but yeah. That's a mess I'm going to have to clean up later, but totally worth it.
Nice. So yeah, that was Pig Fuck Initiation by Dispute Settlement Mechanism. Do check them out on the Bandcamps and in the elsewhere places. And what's next?
Next, we have a very personal song by Jacob Ellis, a trans guy, called My Hardest Decision. This is very much a heartfelt song about his decision to transition. He's kind of, from what I could tell from his online presence, he's kind of just starting out. He's putting a few songs together and putting them on his YouTube, which we'll link to in the description. But yeah, enjoy My Hardest Decision by Jacob Ellis.
This is a mad roller coaster ride. Up and down around the tracks you glide. However you identify. Sometimes you'll dip, sometimes you'll fly. Never been to deceive you. I do
that was Jacob Ellis with My Hardest Decision, and that had a wonderful Depeche Mode vibe.
Yeah, absolutely through and through Depeche Mode.
Yeah, and again, it's like the lyrics were quite relatable, and specifically when quite directly talking about the hardest decision and sort of the feelings and motivations behind it. But yeah, as soon as that came on, I was like, ooh, this is a bit 80s synthy Depeche Mode, and then it really kicked in. I was like, this is even more 80s synthy Depeche Mode. And I was like, oh my god. Yeah, so fantastic. I really enjoyed that one, actually, and I will be seeking out young Jacob off my own back, I suspect. What did you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, lyrically, that was devastating, because I think we've all been at that point, right?
Yes.
Like my transition, there was definitely a couple of months of just, oh god, do I do this? But then for me, coming out was such a revelation, and it was so freeing. But before that, I was very much where Jacob was. So yeah, it brought a lot of stuff up.
Yeah,
it brought a lot of stuff up with me in a good way, in a very good way.
For true.
Musically as well, I tend to layer quite a lot since they're kind of playing the same thing. So it sounds like one kind of big synth, but I could tell that Jacob had done that as well. But I really liked it. It's really good.
Yeah, great production values on it. So, okay, who is next?
Next, we've got a bit of a punky vibe coming back. We've got JC Quick with Passport. Take it away.
It's not who I am, and you never really asked me. A permanent marker, cross it out in Sharpie. Just when I think I've got enough anxiety, I can't self-ID on my state ID. I know that we want this recognition. They say they're like now, but we know politicians. Do you think that they listen? Do they just pretend? Will it ever end, or am I destined to spend the next decade of my life defined by a letter on my passport? Do you ever really wonder what is that for? Now I guess I'll never even pass for anything else until my last thoughts are consumed by dysphoria. So your friends and your family, they know you now, and they know your name and they know your nouns. So who gives a fuck what the people on top think you are? But it does mean a lot, cause if shit hits the fan, they will always come down to that page and the layer that you can't change, when the only other option they gave was prefer not to say, prefer not to say, prefer not to say. Well, you do prefer to say, and you prefer not to have to explain to the man in the shop every time, and to the barman, the bouncer, the cop every time, cause they see that you're next and they breathe down your neck, and you know they suspect, you know that they'll check. Does your body match your head? Are you better off dead? Are you a man in a dress? Are you an M or an F on your passport? Do you ever really wonder what is that for? Now I guess I'll never even pass for anything else until my last thoughts.
Okay, that was JC Quick with Passport. They are a non-binary performer, and I'm sure that all non-binary people can relate to that song in trying to get ID that works in this particularly crappy societal setup. You can find them all over social media. Just search for JC Quick DIY, and they wanted us to mention that they will be at the Indie Tracks Festival in July, which I've just looked up, and it looks fascinating because the Indie Tracks Festival takes place at a steam railway in the middle of Derbyshire, and they've got a stellar lineup. Like, they've got the Orioles, they've got Kero Benito, who is brilliant, and yeah, they're going places. So yeah, go get your tickets for Indie Tracks and go listen to everything JC Quick has ever done.
Nice. Loved it. Alrighty, so up next, this is one that I'm not familiar with this group, or rather performer, which is Meepo, and the song is called Concrete. So that was Concrete by Meepo, and that is something I would definitely put into the experimental music bracket.
I really like it though. It's what I really like about electronic music is that you can kind of go about it in a kind of more mathematical way, but then it translates into something that we can obviously understand in a musical way.
Yeah.
I really like that. Like, obviously you can hear that a lot in that track.
Yeah, for true. Like, I wonder if the concrete thing is coming from like Musique Concrete, where it's
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
making stuff out of the found sounds, because those were not traditional synth sounds for a pop track. Obviously, that's not a pop track, and that's very much the idea, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, great, nice. So up next
we have Polythene Pam, a self-described, upbeat, whimsical, quirky, queer folk punk girl band.
Nice. Okay, I'm here for that.
Yeah, this is one of these bands where they sent me like a list of songs and just saying like pick one, and there were so many songs that sounded completely different from every other song they had. Where it's just like, is this the same band? So I tried to pick the one that is more quintessential to their sound, but also had the most in common with. Well, I had the most crossover with trans issues. So the song I went with in the end was Middle-Aged Transsexual Theme Song, and here it is.
Everybody's got a theme song, so why don't we? So we sat down to write a theme song for girls like me.
It's about our troubled lives and the things that make us cry. So let the anthem ring, 'cause we were born to sing.
Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Middle-aged transsexual theme song. You know I got a lot of works, but I got a coochie kind of works. As long as I've got an hour and my batteries have got enough power, I can sing about menopause. I got the symptoms but a different cause. And even though it's not my jam, I still need to have a mammogram.
I missed out on young and pretty, but at least I could afford some titties. I guess that's just my thing, 'cause we were born to sing.
Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Never had kids, never will, 'cause I got no ovaries. No question at this point, since I'm 43. Last night I woke up screaming, I almost had a heart attack. 'Cause in the middle of sleeping, I had a dream that it grew back.
Hope it doesn't sound too crass, but when I get a finger in my ass, it's only to examine my prostate. I hope that you can relate.
Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Everybody! Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Don't even have to be middle-aged, sing it! Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Don't even have to be transsexual, sing it! Middle-aged transsexual theme song. Yeah! Middle-aged transsexual theme song.
So that was Polythene Pam with Middle-Aged Transsexual Theme Song. And Oh my god, they are so much fun. Like, they say on their website that they are like Violent Femmes, Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash inspired, but I got a hell of a lot of Rancid from that punk band who were just thrown in as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun. What do you guys think?
Definitely, and it's like, they're going for the fun thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, so when I first saw the title, I was like, middle-aged transsexual theme song. That sounds okay. But it was hilarious, wasn't it? With the, like, you know, a lot of punk bands, they do like a guitar solo, but these guys use a kazoo.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that was fun, and precisely the sort of silliness that you need sometimes, really.
There's one point in it as well where the drums are just like not remotely in time, and it's like, we're just going to leave it in, guys.
It's fine.
We're going to go with it. Yeah.
We'll just muddle through, it's cool. But then think about it, a lot of the music that we've dealt with so far is dealing with some quite dark themes. There's been some stuff that's a bit, minor key, low, and whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas that one's just like, all right, let's party, kind of thing. So, which, because if we were sat here being incredibly depressed and miserable and listening to sad music all the time, that's probably not going to do us any good either.
I really like as well how that they've not changed the voice in any way. They've just kind of kept that in, which is really important, I think.
Yeah.
Because trans voices are really diverse. And I think people expect us to be a certain way. I get kind of a lot of feedback saying my voice is really weird, and it's unique because I'm trans, and obviously it's changed. So I think it's really awesome that people are kind of going with all kinds of different expressions in their voice.
Absolutely. I mean, so I know for me personally, because I know I don't do a lot of singing, but in the band it comes up occasionally. But like, I've not changed my voice because I didn't want to, but then there was this whole thing where I got to the gender clinic and they said, oh, well, you'll be wanting vocal therapy then. Well, I kind of don't really, and I kind of got railroaded into it. So I am all for non-traditional expressions of, using your voice in a fuck gender role sort of a way. I am totally here for that. So, yeah, great. So, up next, we have Cool People by 1000 Verbs, who is available at Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Music at 1000 Verbs, and there is SoundCloud as well, which is soundcloud.com/1000 Verbs. And this song from 1000 Verbs is about it being in that perhaps difficult place where you might not be out to everybody, but you're surrounding yourself with cool people. So let's have a listen.
Ready, go. I will say face. I bought a room right by the train. I hate the noise. You wanna come over? Like it's not over. We need something new. Cool people. Probably walking around. We've got all day. You don't know love, but that's okay. Double down on another until we need each other. Who's there for you? But good people, gotta keep them around.
That was Cool People by 1000 Verbs. That is a song that definitely I could resonate with, because when I first moved to London, there was a pressure to go and find the cool people rather than the good people. And yeah, the cool people, not always that cool.
Yeah. It's kind of the problem with that whole popularity thing, isn't it? Oh, he's really cool, but also he's a dick. So, No, I liked that. It's like when it started up and there was like sort of slightly country-ish tone on the guitar, and as it started going, I said to Alfie that it kind of had that kind of walking along through the countryside, Salisbury Hill kind of feel
Yeah.
to it, bopping along. Like,
I really like the snare in that as well, like really specifically the snare is like really nice, just the way it had like a really gentle slap to it. It was just really nice.
cool. Getting technical there again on us. So up next, we're screaming towards the end of this now, so we've got Loose Changeling, who is on the Twitter as @TrashSynth, and we've also got loosechangeling.bandcamp.com, so Twitter or Bandcamp for Loose Changeling, and the song is called Mayday.
It's just a cry for help, it's just a phase. Exsanguinating adolescent hurts. It's closing eyes to navigate the haze. I'm feeling like a maggot in the dirt. It's wearing things that set your cheeks ablaze. It's putting on a skirt. It's just a silly game to kill malaise. It's just another way for you to flirt with all the girls that come and go. With all the women let you know. So go on sending Mayday. 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 You take her to your bed and lock the door, pretending that you're her and that she's you. So everything you give to her is yours, imagining she does it to you too. She thinks it's supernatural rapport. You wish that were true, 'cause in your heart is something to abhor. But luckily she hasn't got a clue, and all the girls that come and go, and all the women that you know, they leave you sending Mayday. 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 I love you. I miss you. Where are you? Where are you? I love you. I miss you. Where are you? Where are you? I love you. I love you. I miss you. I miss you. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I love you. I love you. I miss you. I miss you. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Mayday. 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 Mayday.
All right, that was Loose Changeling with Mayday. Oh, I do like doing this episode because we get to sound like, real radio people. Just
I
like,
know, right?
hello, pop pickers. Up next, we have got Loose Changeling
I know,
with
right?
Mayday, etc.
Which was a fun little song, actually. And again, with the amazing lyrics. There's not that many songs that involve the word exsanguinate, which is, of course, to drain a human body of blood. But yeah,
That's going to be my word of the day.
Exsanguination,
I'm gonna
yeah,
put
yeah.
that in there.
So what I've jotted down, like Harvey Danger-esque whimsy, that kind of cheerful, not quite punk, but definitely in that ballpark. But also, like, the guitars and electronica thing is a fusion that I think more people should do, and there's a little bit more of that coming up. But yeah, I like that one. So that was Loose Changeling. Do check him out. And so, screaming into penultimate place for our Jolly Little Music special is a song by someone you may have heard of, Husk!
Yay!
Yay! Finally, we're at your bit. So, I know, right? So the song is "Could You Forgive Me?" All right. Do you want to tell us a bit about this?
So I released my kind of like first EP in 2018, which kind of did alright. Got a bit of attention from the BBC, which is great. It was very poppy, which I absolutely love pop, so that's great. But this one, I kind of wanted to do something that kind of showed off the kind of more synthy element of it, the more kind of electronic kind of things that I do. So this one's slightly slower in tempo. but it's a very sexy song.
All right.
It's a very sexy song.
Good.
And the BBC still liking this one, which is great for me.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, it's doing great on Spotify, which is you know, it's amazing. I'm really thankful for everybody that have been listening to it. But yeah, this is Could You Forgive Me?
All right, let's have it.
Could you forgive my hand if I let them run my body? Make us return a sin if I promise to be honest. Could you forgive my soul if I sold in your bubble? A day and bone beginning to unravel. Could you forgive me? Save your breath, unbind your mind from your spine, from your chest. Only I die in time. Put down your knife slowly. I don't feel lonely. Save my life tomorrow. Could you forgive my hand if I let them run my body? Make us return a stand if I promise to be honest. Could you forgive my soul if I sold in your bubble? A day or two ago, beginning to unravel. Could you forgive me? Could you forgive my hand if I let them run my body? Make us return a stand if I promise to be honest. Could you forgive my soul if I sold in your bubble? A day I'll see a road. Could you forgive me?
Nice. So that was Could You Forgive Me by the inimitable Husk. Fantastic. So what prompted you to write that? What's it about?
I don't really know. Generally when I write songs, it's when I'm doing something like really mundane. So I think when I wrote this one, I was literally just doing the dishes, and just started, could you? And then it would kind of just came about. Then I usually kind of go back to kind of just writing it, just the kind of chords and synth, and it was a lot kind of different than what I'd done before. The synths are quite kind of impactful rather than kind of more like pads, so it's like not sustained or anything like that, which is kind of what I normally would do. So it's very different. Like we were saying earlier, it was all about being subtle with the lyrics, and I kind of tend to be that way.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are some things in there specifically about being trans and my trans body, which you might not necessarily pick up on straight away.
But that's the thing. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
If you're a trans musician making some music and you write a song about being trans, great, but it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like half the songs that we play today just didn't even reference it.
Yeah, it's just sort of there, So.
Well, being in the music industry and being trans, it can be quite interesting because I can get lots of really awesome things at being trans. I can definitely kind of use it, which I'm definitely going to do because sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people really pick up on it, and they really like that, and I can get some really cool stuff out of doing it, out of mentioning being trans. But on the other end of the spectrum, it can be quite difficult. A lot of people kind of reject that. Yeah. They're kind of I wouldn't be into it because I'm not into queer things and things like that.
Well, it's just music.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of, I kind of have to play it a bit smart with how much I kind of mention the trans element of the music. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, play the game.
But we were talking earlier about trans voices as well, and some people really enjoy it. I get, when you send it out to the press and stuff like that, some people really enjoy it and say, yeah, you've got like a really unique expression with your voice, and other people are kind of like, I really like the production and I think the song's great, I just didn't like the voice.
Right.
So
thanks guys.
Yeah, but it doesn't upset me too much.
Fuck those guys, I think you got a hell of a bag of pipes on you.
I like my voice. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, set of pipes. That's what my gran used to say about music she liked. Her.
I mean, I wasn't going to mention it, but since you've, a bag of pipes. So, yeah, great. So, where can people pick up your stuff?
So everywhere you can imagine, Spotify, it's on YouTube if you don't want to use Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. If you just search at Husk Noise or Husk Noise on Google, I'm the first one.
Yeah.
So if you do that, and then if you kind of support me, that'd be amazing. If you did want to buy it as well, you can get it on Bandcamp, which is again just Husk Noise. But if you do buy it means I can do more.
Yeah.
Support trans musicians.
Support trans content. And on that subject, just while we're here...
Yeah, another reminder about the GoFundMe we're doing.
So far, we've had a wonderfully, almost overwhelming reaction to our GoFundMe. Thank you very much for that. We have bought a fancy, shiny new microphone, which I will be using as of the next episode. So thank you to everybody who has donated to our GoFundMe so far. Definitely thank you to everybody who has shared it as well. But it is still ongoing, so please keep sharing it if you can. If you haven't donated yet, please do consider that. Otherwise, just tell your rich friends about it. God, as if anybody's got rich friends. But yes, so it is GoFundMe/What the Trans. Do check it out. Give us a share and a like or whatever else you are able to do, so we are able to carry on producing top-notch quality podcast content like this, where I've got to go back and read the same line 2 or 3 times, because that's the sort of thing people enjoy. So yes, please do check that out. It is still active, and thank you everybody who's supported us so far. It really does mean so much to us.
And thank you for listening to this show. If you like this show, do consider giving us a follow on Twitter at WhatTheTrans. Give us a follow on Facebook /WhatTheTrans. And check out our website, whattheTransPod.tumblr.com. We do keep with the new Tumblr rule of no pornography, much to my chagrin, because I would have loved to have loads of pornography on our website, but we've got to play the game. We've got to play the game.
We do have to play the game. Yes, so we're not going to be finishing up with our usual delightful garage band theme tune this time, because we're finishing up and being played out by the delightful, inimitable, indomitable Manchester band Saint Lucifer, who, as a band, have gone through some personnel changes quite recently. I'm mentioning this because I happen to know a couple of the members. It's also the case that a couple of the members of St. Lucifer are trans, but I'm not sure we particularly need to mention who or why or whatever. But the point is, they are here for a reason, and they will be here to finish up the show for us. So,
and if you ever get the chance to see them live as well, definitely go, because it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they're a fantastic live band. It's electronica, it's angry, it's punky, it's wonderful. So if you ever have an opportunity to go see St. Lucifer live, or if you're based in Manchester and you're kind of nearby, do check them out. It's tremendous fun. Thanks very much to all of the people who've submitted music for us to play out on this show. Hope you've enjoyed it as a listener. Thank you so much, Husk, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Keep creating, Husk, because I am a fan. I want more of you in my ears.
I'm back in the studio in July, so I'll keep that promise.
Okay, we shall look forward to it.
Wonderful.
All right. So goodbye from us, and this is The Enemy.